This Father's Day, do more with Dad and spend less with low prices guaranteed at the Home Depot. Get him fired up with a new grill and accessories, like the Next Grill 5-burner for just $299, so you can spend more time together while he becomes the grill master he was always meant to be. Or build memories with savings on top brand power tools so you can tackle projects side by side. Gift more and do more together this Father's Day with help from the Home Depot. Exclusions apply. See homedepot.com/price match for details.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Stock up and save big on shoes, tops, dresses, accessories, and more must-haves for summer. Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
So you're saying with Hilton Honors, I can use points for a free night stay anywhere?
Anywhere.
What about fancy places like the Canopy in Paris?
Yeah, Hilton Honors, baby.
Or relaxing sanctuaries like the Conrad in Tulum?
Hilton Honors, baby.
Ooh, what about the 5-star Waldorf Astoria in the Maldives?
Are you gonna do this for all 9,000 properties?
When you want points that can take you anywhere, anytime, it matters where you stay. Hilton, for the stay.
Welcome to 100 Songs That Define Heavy Metal. I'm your host, Brian Slagel. I am the CEO of Metal Blade Records. You can look online if you want more information from that. You can follow me on socials. It's at Brian Slagel. You can read my books. There's a lot of things you guys can do in addition to listening to this podcast. The next time you're in Las Vegas, or if you currently live in Las Vegas or the Las Vegas area, you need to visit the Metal Blade Museum. Now, not only are there artifacts from Metal Blade artists like Metallica, Slayer, Cannibal Corpse, Gwar, Lizzie Borden, there's also artifacts from bands that we had something to do with as well, like Guns N' Roses, Megadeth, Alice in Chains, Deep Purple, Thin Lizzy, Alice Cooper, all sorts of stuff. So it's a really great metal museum. It's located right near the Strip in Las Vegas. Also, our retail store is also now in the museum. So you can go pick up your Metal Blade vinyl, CDs, collectibles, shirts, all sorts of cool stuff. Just go to metalblade.com/museum for all the details. We're going to talk about the forever legendary band Slayer and the forever legendary song, South of Heaven. A little bit of a different song for them, coming off of Rain and Blood, which was 1,000 miles an hour. And this one had a different tone to it, but I love it. It's just so evil. The riffs are so incredible. It's definitely a song that deserves to be in the 100 Songs That Define Heavy Metal. We're going to talk about this song with our buddy Chris Kael from Five Finger Death Punch, the great producer Mark Lewis. And as always, we're going to begin it with the man who's written almost 150 books about hard rock and heavy metal, the legendary Martin Popoff.
Love it, Brian. Great choice. Slayer with South of Heaven. So this is the opening track on the band's fourth album, issued July 5th, 1988. This is my favorite Slayer album, produced by Rick Rubin. Famously, his association with the band starts with Rain and Blood. Before this, this song has 121 million plays on Spotify alone. That's pretty impressive. Opening track on this album, they decided, we've already done a Rain and Blood. Let's not do Rain and Blood again. This has slower, groovier tempos. I think the production is a little more powerful, a little more bottom end. And this song just absolutely personifies the new direction. It's 5 minutes long, but you got that slow opening with no drums, and you got the ominous, guitar figure. Then Tom comes in with these sort of shotgun fills with the great snare sound on this. You get kind of a first verse with just this sort of tribal build-up thing. And so no beat yet, but then we get the beat coming in with the same sort of music. It's still at this halftime situation. There's no real payoff. Everybody's wondering, what kind of song are we going to get here? This is extra slow. But then we get at 1:41, we get the song kind of explodes into view, or explodes enough into view. It explodes into kind of an AC/DC space. It's still not super fast, but it is kind of a brisk mid-pace song, and absolutely completely infectious, completely catchy. And you got the double bass part in there, but it's double pace at that same tempo. And we're actually back to the halftime again for quite a while. So they take us all the way back to the super slow. Then you get a next verse, some more double time. And then at 2:47, so halfway through, is the first time we hear the chorus. And again, super, super catchy chorus. It just feels like it's this great payoff, almost like a AC/DC Highway to Hell sort of situation. You get one of the classic dissonant guitar solos again over the double bass thing. We get the verse again on that just really nice, straight Dave Lombardo AC/DC beat. And then it ends with this long sort of sustaining guitar sound. And then we go into a super, super fast one at that point. But yeah, really cool. It got to number 57 on the charts, certified gold in 1992. Mandatory Suicide, I suppose, is the most famous song off of this. Cover art's getting better all the time as well. I mean, they're just slowly getting better and better with the cover arts. This is Larry Carroll in conjunction with Howard Schwartzberg, illustrator. So that looks great too. Great title. I love Seasons in the Abyss as well. This is my favorite Slayer album, and a super cool opener on here. Not giving us everything right away, but then eventually giving us the payoff. Very, very skilled songwriting. Slayer, South.
Thanks, Martin. I don't know if I would compare the song to AC/DC Highway to Hell, but I get it. When he said that, I go, I get it. And that's why I love having Martin on here, because he always has interesting and unique insights that we might not have thought of before. All right.
Hey, I just Venmo'd you for rent.
Nice. Now I can instantly spend it whether I'm checking out online with Venmo or using a Venmo debit card.
Say more.
More exactly. Because the more you do with Venmo, the more you get. Like earning up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash on a bundle of brands.
So, order more pizza.
The math demands it.
Get the Venmo debit card.
Venmo Stash bundle terms and exclusions apply. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms. Venmo checkout not available at all merchants. Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A.
Wishing you could be there live for the big game, soaking up the atmosphere of the crowd. But too often, life gets busy, or the price holds you back. Priceline is here to help you make it happen. With millions of deals on flights, hotels, and rental cars, you can go see the game live. Don't just dream about the trip, book it with Priceline. Download the Priceline app or visit Priceline.com. Actual prices may vary. Limited time offer.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Right. We welcome back our old friend who's produced, engineered, and mixed literally hundreds, if not maybe thousands at this point. I don't know. Mark Lewis, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, man.
And we're talking Slayer, South of Heaven. First of all, give me your thoughts on the song.
Oh, perfect song. I mean, it's always been the thing about Slayer is there's just no fat on the songs. Perfect arrangements. Perfect lyrics, perfect imagery, perfect heavy metal. That's all I can say about that stuff, man. I mean, doesn't get better, and Hanneman is just the master song crafter, man. I mean, he was it.
The riff general, yeah, big time. I mean, I love this song so much because, look, Rain and Blood is incredible, but it's, just 1,000 miles an hour for the whole record, right?
Yep.
What do you do after that? You come out with this like super slow building, heavy track, just absolutely perfect, pure evil, just so great. The interesting thing about the production on this compared to Rain and Blood is it's very similar. And, as always, Rick Rubin's brilliance is he brings in great people to work with him because he doesn't really do a whole lot. But of course, Andy Wallace is, in a mixing engineer and engineer on the record, also mixed it, and he's one of the best mixers of all time. So hence why the record sounds so great. But what I did notice, and we talked about Raining Blood before with Dave Lombardo, actually, so you can go back and listen to that after this one if you'd like. We talk about the production part of that, and it's very stripped down. Like it's not very 80s. There's not a lot of reverb on anything, but you really couldn't have any reverb on that because it's so fast that it just would have been a big mess. But I noticed in this one, when you listen to the opening of South of Heaven, there's just that little tiny bit of reverb on the snare that kind of makes it work. It's not too much, but you notice that, okay, it's there. It's just not dead like Rain and Blood was.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because some people would classify the Slayer records as maybe underproduced at times, and I just don't agree. Would I consider it slick? No, but it's huge and it's powerful and it's clear as fuck, and it is like so dead on for what it needs to be. And the thing that made it special and maybe more raw to other people is that they're doing those basic tracks live off the floor. I mean,
yep.
I'm sure that they recut the guitars, but they play through the songs together. And it's a big thing as to why Slayer is so devastating live, because there's not this big disconnect between the record and the live performance. But people cannot really, like they may say, Slayer's, the production's raw. It's like, okay, man, you get a record to sound like that then, and you tell me how raw that is. It is very difficult to capture something that quote unquote raw and have it be that clear, that articulate, and that powerful. And, you're not talking about tons of drum samples or reverb or any of that type of stuff. And it's really special. And Andy Wallace did an incredible job. Obviously, Rick Rubin's vision of keeping it really dry and in your face is maybe the most brilliant stylistic call of any metal band in terms of like an about face of their whole sound. It's crazy how good it is. And you also can't not mention how much louder the drums are on this record.
Nope.
But you don't struggle to hear the guitars.
That's always kind of the struggle with Slayer, at least producing, is just making sure you can hear everything, especially the guitars and the drums, because that really is what drives it. The bass is just kind of there as a background piece. It's not really driving anything necessarily. But the other thing too about Slayer is, and we talked about this 1,000 times with recordings and why some records sound better than others, they sound great. Like live, they sound great. In the studio, they sound great. So it would be harder to fuck it up, basically, because they sound so good.
Yeah, sure.
I just love that they honed in on that sound. And again, it's the 80s, so it's very easy to go overboard on stuff, but they didn't do that. And that kind of sets them apart from a lot of other bands and certainly makes it, I think, more heavy. It's raw, yes, just because I think the band is raw, but it's just, the sound is just so heavy.
Yeah, no, it's the best. I mean, I will stand by it, till the day I die, that Slayer's the heaviest, most evil band to ever exist. It's like they got the imagery and the whole thing, the way it pulls you in so much better than any other band, because they never got campy, at least on their most vital stuff. And then live, it's somehow even more evil, And it's like it's just the right amount of stuff. There's not face paint. There's not the silly things. It doesn't go to the tongue-in-cheek thing, and it's just the right amount of evil, I guess, if that makes sense. It's like the perfect horror movie.
Yeah. No, they perfected all of that. That was, kind of always been their brand, obviously, but they perfected it over the years. And we're talking about, this is, one of the records in their prime, and certainly one of their best records overall. And again, I love it because my favorite record is Hell Awaits. I mean, I'm a little biased because I was involved in it, but I just love that there's so many different genres and stuff on that. It's fast stuff, slow stuff, super fast stuff, long songs, which they rarely ever do, and Carrie doesn't like. So it's kind of fun that there's some longer songs on there. But this record too is, I just love this record because again, they're doing all sorts of different stuff. It's super fast. There's something that's really heavy, and of course, this song to me is. Some days it's definitely my favorite Slayer song. It just kind of depends on the day. I'll probably pick something else. I'll probably pick, Raining Blood tomorrow or Hell Awaits another day, but because they're all so good. But I just love the way it sounds. And again, you're talking like mid 80s, and the production level and quality is a lot different from even what Metallica was doing at the time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I mean, not to get too far off track, but I absolutely love Hell Awaits too. And that to me is when Slayer really came into their own songwriting wise, and when that real You know, like there's the Slayer notes, the chromaticism in the guitars, the way they write those riffs. It was a little bit more, I guess the word is diatonic on Show No Mercy. That it wasn't quite so dissonant. It was a bit more Priest and a little less evil on the guitar sound. And Hell Awaits was so critical in that, you know, and like that middle bit of Necrophiliac, like that type of shit is just like, oh man, this band is different and insane. You know what I mean? Like that note choice that they do, nobody's ever been able to do it again. You know, it's like you have the Lamb of God, but Lamb of God has a much more blues influence to it, you know, and Slayer never ventured into that at all.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking, you know, Lamb of God's from Virginia. It's a little, you know, it's not really South necessarily, but it's right on the cusp of being Southern. You know, those guys definitely had a lot of those influences. With Slayer was, you know, coming from Southern California, and you know, Carey was just, you know, huge metal fan, Priest, and all that stuff. And the great thing about both Metallica and Slayer that really made them work was, you know, Lars was the old school metal guy, and then James had some punk influence on him, and that merged together to make Metallica super heavy. And the same thing with Slayer, where Carey was the old school metal guy, and Jeff had a lot of punk influences. And again, you merge that stuff together, and you have this really a newfound metal sound that was different from what everybody else created. And then, of course, all the other bands came in there. But yeah, just brilliant. And it just was really fun, though, watching those guys mature a little bit as musicians, because they got better every record, especially Lombardo, because he still blows me away at how amazing he is.
Oh, I mean, his drum part writing, I mean, it's funny, you know, like we talk about Slayer riffs all the time, but what does anybody do when you're listening to Slayer? Nobody air guitars. Everybody air drums when you're listening to Slayer. There's drum riffs, man, and it's perfection. It's the same thing with Lars or Nick Menza or Gar Samuelson. Like those guys, like there's so much of the key to the success of those bands was where those drummers were falling in between the vocals, how they accented riffs. You know, I've said it probably on this podcast a million times, but it's one of the biggest things I go through with bands that want me really involved in their music is getting the drummers to accent things right and making them realize that, you know, accenting everything kind of makes a song feel slower, and you have to get in on these right beats like Dave and Lars did and do. It's just really critical. And it really helps when you don't have guitar players writing the drums, if that makes sense. I mean, sure, you know, maybe have the idea, but you got to have these drummers that are aware of what's going on. And also, these bands played together. They at least had some sort of vocal cadence, you know, going into the studio, so the drummers knew what to be in and out of. And it's a big thing. It really helps a lot. And speaking of vocals, I mean, Tom really stepped out of the box on South of Heaven. I would imagine, I mean, I don't know what people thought at the time, but I'm sure it was, you know, people were like, wow, this is different. Maybe it was hard to digest. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't probably get enough credit for being a really great vocalist. Like, it just, his style works, and he's, you know, worked on it over the years. He still sounds phenomenal today, which is great, because that style is not the easiest thing to do when you get up into your 50s and, you know, late 50s at this point.
I think he's in his 60s now, yeah.
Yeah, early 60s. Yeah, you're right. It was a different style than everybody else, which is really interesting. Because it was super heavy. It's not a death metal vocal, but it's certainly very close to that, I guess. But it works with the music, because heavy vocals on heavy music, and it all works. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of Slayer. Like, it all works together. Like Tom singing, Dave's playing, Carey and Jeff. I mean, it's just like all of it works together. All very, very different people, but it come together as Slayer, and it's just magic.
Yep, it is. It's magic. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely. I mean, it's such a cool trajectory they took, you know, especially even up to the end. I mean, the songs were always great, and it was just always, it was never laborious to listen to. You know, they always had the right arrangements. And
they also, even though they were younger kids, all dating all the way back, I mean, a little bit on the first record, but certainly Hell Awaits, they had a lot to do with the production. They very much knew what they wanted to sound like, how they wanted it to sound. And, you know, they worked obviously with the producers and engineers and everybody, but they had a vision of what they wanted. And that, I think, is important too, because, you know, not a lot of bands do that. A lot of bands from record to record sound different depending upon who's producing it or what it is. But these guys have been pretty consistent over all the years, because they know exactly what they want. I mean, at this point, you know, Carey's pretty much just producing the last couple Slayer records, and certainly his solo records, basically him calling all the shots.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I know it was like that for quite a while. I mean, I know he was playing, most of the guitars and even the bass and stuff like that, which, a lot of bands do that just for the tightness aspect and, people knowing the songs and things like that, which, yeah, it's great, man. I mean, it's just seeing them live again now is they're just killing it. They're on fire and it's great. And just one of the best metal songs, one of the best sounding metal songs, one of the best metal albums ever. It's just incredible. Couldn't say more about it.
I agree. And always great to have you. Thank you so much for doing this. And I'm sure we will talk to you again soon.
An honor to talk about this one, man. Thank you.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
This episode is brought to you by Prime. What if you had one more chance with the one that got away?
Sam, you came home.
Based on the best-selling novel from Carly Fortune. Every Year After follows childhood friends Sam and Percy as they reunite in the dreamy, nostalgic lakeside town of Barry's Bay.
Love can be hard to find. So if you're lucky enough to find that person, never let go.
A second chance at first love. Every Year After, now streaming only on Prime.
You have one new message. Translating. Disney and Pixar's Hoppers is now available on Disney+.
You could say that again.
Critics are calling it Pixar's funniest movie ever and a wildly entertaining ride. Blizzard Potato. It's certified fresh and verified hot.
Now we party.
This is incredible!
Wow, I am clearing the rest of the day.
Disney and Pixar's Hoppers, now available on Disney+. Rated PG.
Hey everyone, Brian Slagel here, founder of Metal Blade Records. I spent my whole entire life trying to make metal history and make metal better and promote metal as much as I can. And now there's a brand new way for you to test your metal knowledge and relive those iconic moments. It's called Metal Mondays, the official metal trivia game from Metal Blade and Pantheon Media, and it's free to play right now. Every Monday, a new game drops. From Slayer, Supremacy to Death, Metal 101, 80s, Metal Blade Classics, and tons more. You'll battle it out on the leaderboards, win killer prizes, and even score some exclusive Metal Blade merch. So if you think you know your riffs, your legends, and your deep cuts, prove it. Download Hit Replay on the App Store or Google Play, or head to metalbladerecords.com/Metal Mondays and start playing today. Because in metal, there's no off days. Only Metal Mondays. Metal Mondays. Play loud, play true, and play to win. All right, we welcome to the podcast his first time here. You know him from his acting career, like being in The Retaliators. You know him from his amazing podcast, Beardo and Weirdo with Craig Gass. And of course, the Five-Finger Death Punch bass player, Mr. Chris Kael. How are you, sir?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me come on here and talk about my favorite band in the history of heavy metal. I'm super excited about it.
We're on the right subject then. That's good.
Absolutely.
So I always got to ask, because you're younger, obviously, than I am, where did you come in on Slayer? When did you first hear them?
The first record that I heard was Rain and Blood. I was in 7th grade in Lexington, Kentucky, and there was a dude named Donovan. He's like the long-haired stoner kid, had the Slayer jacket on the back and said, "Do you want to die?" I go, you know what? I want to check that out.
Right? Well, that's amazing. So we're talking about South of Heaven song. I go back and forth between Slayer songs as being my favorite. It's like there's so many of them, and it's really hard to pinpoint one. One day it's one day it's another one. This one probably comes up for me more than any other ones. Because as much as I love all the crazy fast Slayer stuff they do, I love it when they slow it down. And I mean, the riffs in this song are just insane. Like completely insane.
Absolutely. Yeah, just the intro, as soon as those first notes hit, it's like, oh, something different is happening here, going from Rain and Blood into South of Heaven. And just it's moody, it's dark, it's Slayer. It's wonderful.
Well, that's why I like it, because I love those 3 records, Hell Awaits, Rain of Blood, and South of Heaven, because you had with Hell Awaits, there's all sorts of stuff, probably the most diverse Slayer record. And then you've got Rain and Blood, which is just 1,000 miles an hour at full speed. And then this one's kind of a mixture of a bit of both. And I think it's great that you begin the record with this just completely evil riff, but it's slow and heavy and building up. Again, what else could you do after Rain and Blood? You can't recreate that.
Exactly. And what way to start off that album than with that song, South of Heaven. Just, it's incredible.
Yeah, Jeff Hanneman, man, both him and Carey are obviously both amazing riff guys. But Hanneman sometimes you pull these riffs out and just like, where on earth did that come from? It's so insane.
Yeah, it came from South of Heaven. That's where it came from.
Yeah, apparently so. So you came in on Rain and Blood. Okay, cool. So then was South of Heaven already out by the time you got to it, or had it not come out yet?
It was not. I actually was one of the kids waiting in line at midnight at a Disc Jockey Records back in Kentucky. Waited in line, picked it up, put it in my Chevrolet Chevette that I had at that time, and jammed. I think my speakers in the car were worth more than the car itself.
Yeah, nice. As it should be, by the way. So what was your impression on first listening to it?
At first, I was a little taken aback from the speed or the lack of speed of the song South of Heaven. But I mean, then it goes right into like, Behind the Crooked Cross and whatnot. Like, okay, the speed's still there. It just starts off a little different.
Yeah, exactly. So when you got into Rain and Blood, obviously you went backwards and got, Hell Awaits and Show No Mercy. What was your opinions on the early stuff?
Oh man. The one thing that I loved that once Rick Rubin got in there was taking the reverb out of the vocals. That changed it for me. I liked it. But until I heard the reverb, I was like, I don't know about that. But yeah, the Tom Araya dry voice, that's the best.
We talked about Rain and Blood on the podcast, obviously, and talking about the production part of it. They really did have to strip it down because everything is so fast. You have any reverb on anything on that record, it just would have muddied it up. So just basically make it real raw because that way you can hear everything and fit everything in, because reverb on that record would not have gone over very well.
Yeah, exactly. And then also like Rain and Blood and South of Heaven, I feel like they really started introducing those Slayer harmonies that we know, particularly in that song South of Heaven, adding that creepy harmony, and just Dave Lombardo, those drums, they sing as well leading up in that intro too. It's like, drum riffs that you could sing along. That kind of stuff. Love it.
And it definitely helped them to have the major label budget. They could spend a lot more time in the studio to do all that fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, that was just, they kept getting better as a band, album by album by album. And this one kind of was, I guess the ultimate culmination of like, okay, this band is a real big band now. They're not just these kids from California that are playing fast music.
Absolutely. It definitely changed the game for them. It kind of separated them from some of the other big four, gave them their own distinct type of sound, combined Rain and Blood and South of Heaven together. When you hear Slayer, you know it's Slayer.
Yeah, it's unmistakable. And that's the way it is with most great bands. I mean, you hear 5 seconds from opening riff, it's Black Sabbath or Slayer or whatever, Pantera, whatever great band it is. You know that's the sound, that's how they sound, that's how it is. So you know how that goes, which is why great bands are all so unique like that. And Slayer certainly is insanely unique. When was the first time you got to see them live?
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember. I think it was, it had to be a Bogarts up in Cincinnati, I would think. Maybe on the South of Heaven tour.
Were you in the pit?
Oh, absolutely. I'm the guy, I'm a big dude, so I don't necessarily like getting into the pit because I feel like I'm too much, but I definitely like being on the edge of that pit right there with all the circle energy, kind of helping people up and pushing them back in and whatnot. That's the best place to see Slayer for sure.
Yeah.
My favorite time that I ever saw Slayer, we opened up for them in, I believe it was Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Oh, wow.
And I know Gary well. And Gary, I was standing on the side of the stage. He invited me over to sit kind of right next to his amps. And I got this video starting off. It's for the song Raining Blood. And it's got the doo-doo-doo. It's just building and building and building. And then I go from Gary out to the crowd right when the music starts. The biggest pit I have ever seen in my life. Just a huge swirl of crazy Argentinians. That was a Slayer crowd, and that was the best place to see that.
I can only imagine that. I mean, Slayer, the pits of Slayer, I mean, I've been in a lot of pits before and seen a lot of pits before, but I think Slayer by far the best and also maybe the most scariest pits as well.
I got to go between them and Agnostic Front. That's the two scariest I've ever been in.
Yeah, some of the punk rock ones, especially, I grew up in LA, obviously, so our pits for the punk rock shows weren't that bad. Actually, the scariest band pits back then was Suicidal. because there's a lot of rival gang stuff there. So they were routinely had stabbings and things at those. So I knew not to go into a suicidal pit because I didn't really want to get stabbed or anything. So I'll just watch.
You got to be suicidal to go into a suicidal pit.
Yeah, kind of. Exactly. By the way, shout out to my old friend Rocky George, who was the original guitar player for Suicidal Tendencies, who is a massive hockey fan. He's also a really good hockey player. I don't know if he still plays or not, but we used to go to LA Kings games all the time back in the day. So super great dude.
Yep. I think that was my first exposure to hockey was seeing Slayer wearing the Kings jerseys.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well,
yeah,
I'll get into that. I want to talk to you about the hockey stuff in a minute because you have one of my favorite hockey stories of all time. But we'll get there in a couple of minutes. So in terms of Slayer, so they're your favorite band of all time, obviously. So when you look back at it now, because I'm so close to it that it's kind of weird. Like, obviously I hang out with Carrie all the time, especially in Vegas. There's people come up to him like, "Oh my God, you changed my life," all that sort of stuff. Like how as the Slayer fan, like what's your like look at what they are as a band?
Well, with Slayer, they were the band that took me from listening to like Rat, Motley Crue, like that type of LA music into the crazy heavy stuff. Slayer was my introduction then to like all the way to like Morbid Angel, Obituary, and how many death metal bands were doing Slayer guitar solos. So they influenced all that stuff. But Slayer was definitely my gateway drug into much heavier music. Been a fan ever since, like Celtic Frost, all the craziness. That all came from me listening to Slayer. Maybe a little bit of Master of Puppets. That was kind of like the first one. But Rain and Blood and South of Heaven is just on a different scale as far as, metal and heaviness. While Master of Puppets is a masterpiece musically, Slayer, their masterpiece, definitely Rain and Blood and South of Heaven, but on a different type of level.
Yeah, I mean, Slayer was certainly the heavier band, especially when you got to that point in both of their careers. I mean, both, obviously both incredible bands, and it's insane. They both came from Los Angeles, by the way, but as three of the big four did, Megadeth too. We never get enough credit for that.
That's right.
Folks back then.
Yeah, everybody just assumes it's the Bay,
Yeah, right. But Slayer definitely was a gateway for a lot of people because I know a lot of people come into metal and same thing. You listen to what's on the radio, especially living where you growing up in Kentucky. I'm sure you didn't have a lot of access to the heavier, more underground stuff. So of course you get into the more lighter stuff, and then somebody smartly plays you a Slayer record, and you're like, oh, okay, there we go.
I think it was probably like, obviously Donovan, my friend in 7th grade that had the Slayer back patch, but also like Circus Magazine, Hit Parader. I think they were probably even in there a couple of times.
Yeah.
And then I'm going into Revolver and whatnot. So I was getting most of my stuff from like, the metal magazines, going into Kroger every month and be like, come on, please let a new issue be out.
Yeah, right.
And please have a Slayer, please have the Slayer pull out, please.
Was it tough being a fan in those areas because they just didn't have a lot of access to a lot of things, or was it as easy? Because I know, my buddy Richard Christie grew up in Kansas, and he was obviously a huge metalhead, and he was like, it was so hard to get any information when he was growing up.
We had a record store in Turfla Mall in Lexington, Kentucky called Record Bar, and there was one metal guy that was always in there, and I came in, the younger kid with the long hair and the jean jacket and the pins, and he knew, hey man, I've been listening to this, give this a shot. I mean, I found like Sacred Reich through him, Forbidden. I bought the Slayer record from him there at Turfla Mall. I don't remember his name, but yeah, that was another big influence. Having the older metal guy, older, probably college, I would guess.
Yeah.
But, somebody that worked at the store was able to get the promo copies and play those in store. And, they even had like the little listening stations that you could go in back then.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that helps. I mean, I started out working at a record store, and that was just so much fun turning people on to music that hey, if you like this, maybe you'll like this. And,
absolutely.
So it's good. It's good that you had somebody there because that's the one thing that I love about metal is it's such a tight knit community, but it's not an easy genre. I mean, it probably is now, I guess, but back in the day, it wasn't as easy a genre because it wasn't mainstream and not everybody really liked it. And they're like, for example, when I was growing up in LA, like I went to all the record stores, I knew all the guys that worked at the record stores. And this was even like, they were even like, why do you even like Kiss and all that sort of stuff? Because they were super nice guys, but they're kind of more elitists when it comes to what music they were listening to. And that was kind of the LA, everybody that worked at a record store in LA was at that point in time had that attitude. So I love it that people come in afterwards and kind of pay it forward by turning people on to stuff like that.
Absolutely. We're still doing it today. Even now, I'll wear the shirts of the bands that I like in case, people who listen to Five Finger Death Punch might not have the experience or the exposure to some of the other bands that I like to listen to. I take that straight out of the Metallica Wearing the Misfits shirts playbook.
And Five Finger by far is a great gateway band because they're a super heavy band, very mainstream. You guys are all over the radio. Everybody likes heavy music, knows and likes Five Finger. And then that's where, again, like we mentioned with you, like you come in on that sort of stuff and then you go, oh, there's all this other cool stuff that these guys, and you're, of course, the ambassador for that. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. It is an honor and a privilege, and I'm happy to be here in all senses of the word.
So when you got into Slayer, were in addition to the music being super heavy and fast, the lyrics are pretty out there too. Was that something as a kid you're like, whoa, that's kind of crazy?
Let's just focus on the line, bastard sons begat your cunting daughters. As a kid growing up in Kentucky, like I went to church all the time. My mom and dad were heavily involved in the church. I actually wanted to be a youth minister at one point. And just hearing those lyrics, I'm like, oh, this is something new. You can say that on vinyl? My God.
Yeah, because that's something that people talk about their lyrics all the time, but I don't know if they get enough credit if you do for just pushing the envelope, because clearly, I remember reading the lyrics when I first saw them for Hell Away. It's like, whoa, this is there's some fun stuff on here that's definitely going to freak people out. But and that's kind of funny how the needle moves, right? When we talk about certainly South of Heaven, which is, I looked back and I tried to do all the research on what's their biggest album. They're all kind of pretty similar in sales, but it's either this one or Rain and Blood. One of the two are the biggest ones. But it's interesting how Slayer's now mainstream. I mean, they're so popular that they're actually now mainstream, even with all the. And it's funny how that line moves. When you go all the way back to like Alice Cooper and that sort of stuff is way out there, and then you come in with Slayer and the punk rock bands, and the line always keeps moving. It seems
absolutely. And with Slayer, if you go to any show, there's either two things being yelled: Slayer or Freebird. That's the two call outs at every show, regardless of where you go.
That is very true. They're easy to shout out, I guess. And obviously, Slayer fans are a rabid bunch. I remember my buddy Jim Florentine, the comedian. He was opening for it was Slayer, Megadeth, and I don't think Anthrax was out at the time. I can't remember. But Jim was hosting it. And, a comedian going out there trying to tell jokes in front of metal kids is not the easiest thing to do. But it was the worst before Slayer. Like people would throw stuff at him, and he finally got like a couple of cute girls on stage just to hope that these kids wouldn't throw bottles and stuff at him while he's trying to introduce Slayer.
At a Slayer show, people are there to see Slayer, much like Kiss, same thing. When you go to a Kiss show, that's who you're going to see. And then just getting up there and seeing Slayer and just the wall of marshals up there. And then, as the years progress, the pyro it's crazy. The visuals all around. I mean, I remember sitting looking at the Rain and Blood record cover and the South of Heaven record cover, just having that vinyl, sitting there for hours, poring over all the lyrics and checking out every visual on there. It was a beautiful time back then.
Yeah. What do you think it is about Slayer that has their fans become so passionate about them, like almost more than any other band, really?
Oh, man. I mean, my only thing with those guys that I can say for myself is it just took a metal to a different level. It felt darker. It felt heavier. I never really was a loner kid. I always had friends all over the place, but you kind of want that scary vibe, the intimidation thing, and just Slayer. That's a whole different thing. I mean, my God, Kerry King with the nails on his wristband out there. It gets no more intimidating than that man right there in full metal gear.
I always laugh because, he's one of my really good friends, and everybody's like afraid of him because they think he's, because he does look very, and intentionally so, very scary. But he's like he's like the sweetest guy.
I get it.
Yeah, right. So I do want to talk a little bit about hockey, since right now the Golden Knights are in the Stanley Cup Finals. You have one of my favorite stories of getting into hockey of all time. So I saw you, I think it was a preseason game at the very first season of the Golden Knights. And I was talking to you. I said, "Oh, you're a hockey fan?" He goes, "No, this is my first ever hockey game. Like, I don't know anything about it.
Yes, sir.
I've never watched it before, but we have a team, so I'm going to go." And then from there on, you got into it. I remember watching, especially on your social media feed, just talking about how much you loved the Golden Knights and the whole hockey thing. And it got to the point where you were on the road, like watching games on TV in your hotel, and you became like a real massive hockey fan. I just love that from somebody that never knew anything about the sport to like all of a sudden becoming a huge fan.
Yeah, I remember when it was announced that Vegas was getting a hockey team. I'm like, it's the desert. Why are we getting a hockey team here? Do we have that many Canadians living down here that's going to be able to float this team? And then I got invited to the first, the preseason game, and that was right after the Mandalay Bay shooting had happened.
Yep.
So Vegas was in a very, very dark place. Yep. Just a very sad time, just dark and miserable. And I went to the game, again, not having any exposure to it, but brand new team in town. Let's go see what they got going on. Derek England, number 5 from Vegas, gave a speech that day, and it was powerful. And just everybody was tears falling. And then I think the first 2 minutes of that game, they might have scored like 3 goals, boom, right in a row. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, that was actually the first regular season game.
Okay.
So yeah, the one with Derek England. But yeah, that obviously solidified the team with the fans. So now, being a big Golden Knights fan, now how do you feel the fact that the Golden Knights are now the most hated hockey team in all of the NHL?
I mean, if other teams knew how to put a team together like we did right out of the gate, maybe they might not hate us as much,
Yeah, it's kind of mind-boggling because they come out and it's like, oh, fun little team, and they're in Vegas, and they did really well the first year. They went to Stanton Final. They were kind of like, oh, we love Vegas, and fun. Now all of a sudden, oh, we all hate them. Everybody hates them.
Yeah,
there are reasons too, but it's kind of funny how quickly that turned.
Yeah, but then again, that team means so much to Vegas, the city. That I understand the outside hate, but those who hate the team hate it because of hockey reasons. We love the Golden Knights because to us here in Vegas, they're more than just hockey. It really brought this city together. Unlike I'd never seen this city come together. It's very kind of a commuter city. People come in, they work their jobs, didn't have a whole lot of interaction with whatnot. But then once the Golden Knights got here, it gave Vegas a sense of community that I had not seen in the 16, 17 years that I lived here at that point.
Yeah, because I was pretty new out here. I was like a couple of years in when the Knights first started playing. So, but I did. But people were asking me because I'm friends with a lot of people within the NHL, and they're all asking me like, "Is this team going to do okay in Vegas?" Because they were a lot more worried about it. Look, you got to understand, this is the biggest city in the U.S. at the time that did not have a pro sports team, and it's always been a big sports city. I've been craving a team. So whatever team was going to be first, the city was going to love them. And of course, the October shooting and all the stuff that the Knights did afterwards, just, that began the whole love affair between the city and the team. But I knew they were going to be good because, first of all, it's a great sport. Yeah. But I'm biased by that. But also just the fact that this is going to be the first ever pro sports team here, and it's going to do well.
And to have a team that was created here rather than one that's moving from another city.
Yeah.
Golden Knights, it came there. And that whole first year, once we got to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. I actually got the secondary logo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so can't ever get a real job now. Screwed myself.
Well, yeah, that's I don't know about that. I mean, I see people with tattoos everywhere now, like even the doctor's offices and dentist's offices. It's a whole different thing these days than it used to be, for sure.
I won't be getting any jobs in Carolina though. No time.
Yes, or maybe any NHL city. You never know. Yeah. But I think you're good for a while.
Yeah.
So tell me about the podcast. You and Craig Gass.
We got Beardo and Weirdo. Been doing it for about a year and a half now. Several subscribers over on YouTube. We got on Spotify, Apple Music. I think we're up to about 17 million hits on the clips.
Nice.
On Instagram alone. Had everybody from Kerry King. We've had you on there. Gene Simmons. Just interviewed Frank Bello yesterday.
He's been on this show.
Yeah, we were just getting our friends and allowing people on the outside to be introduced into these conversations that we have as friends. A lot of it's focused on, like Craig and I are both sober. So we talk about like recovery. We talk about mental health. heavy metal, sports. It's kind of just two friends hanging out, and we're always very bright and lively and wild and conversational. So we're having a really, really good time with it, and it's called Beardo and Weirdo.
Yeah, it's a fun podcast, and of course, you can get it wherever you listen to podcasts, as you can with this one as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and Craig's such a good dude, and you guys are both metalheads, so that doesn't hurt.
And we're also getting some stories. Like we got a couple of news stories this past week from the metal world that we interviewed yesterday, and it'll be out this coming Thursday. I'm not sure when this comes out, but yeah, the banana that got assaulted up in Toronto, we interviewed him. Yep. So that's a wonderful story. And then we also had the jiu-jitsu guy that had to restrain a passenger on a flight from Puerto Rico to Chicago. He used the jiu-jitsu skills to get this loudmouth. He was trying to open the door. It was crazy watching this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you also had that guy. I'm the worst person with names on earth. The guy that's on that Spectrum show. Him and his wife. I think you had on.
Was it James? And
yeah,
for Love on the Spectrum.
Love on the Spectrum. He followed me on Instagram. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I followed him and looked at it, and he's a huge metalhead. So I started asking my girlfriend, because she loves that show. You know this guy? She's like, oh, yeah, I love him. He's like one of the best people on there. So I saw you had him on. I watched that. I thought that was a really cool episode.
And speaking of sharing bands that we love, I got to share one that I love with him, because I didn't realize that he listened to quite as heavy as he does. Mm-hmm. And I love a band out called Spite right now. Yep. I was like, dude, you got to check out Spite. So even, on the podcast, we're sharing the love for heavy metal and spreading the word of the bands that we love.
Much appreciated. And what's the latest with Five Finger?
We got a brand new song out called Eye of the Storm. Got a new album coming out later this year. I'm actually doing all the video liners and whatnot for that right now, getting ready for the big press push. And we've got shows starting in July. We're bringing out Cody Jinks and Eva Under Fire with us on that. That goes
cool.
North America, so United States and into Canada. And then January, I'm really excited about going out with, we're bringing out Lamb of God and Bleed From Within over in Europe. For 2 months. Yeah, I'm super excited about that.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'll be amazing. Oh, that'll be super cool. And where can people find you on the socials?
I do all my own social networks. So 5FDP Chris Kael, Kael across most platforms. ChrisKael.com for like meet and greet packages and whatnot. And if you want to reach out, I do all that stuff. I ain't paying nobody. I'm a bass player, so I got to hold on to every cent I got.
Yeah, I hear you. I do all my stuff too. Yeah. It's actually a lot of fun, and you're a fun follow. So definitely follow.
Yeah, it goes back to our days of the fanzines back in the day,
Exactly.
Yep. Staying in touch and running the show.
Well, dude, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. That was awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invite, and send my love to Carrie as well. And go Knights.
Well, that'll do it. That was super fun. Great talking to my buddy Chris Kael from Five Finger Death Punch. Mark Lewis, as always, great dude and amazing producer. And our friend up in Canada, Mr. Martin Popoff. Thanks to Lizzie Borden for our theme song. And our producer, Mr. Christian Blatt, who makes everything work here. Thanks a lot. And we'll see you guys next episode.
100!